Previously on the channel, we pumped 28.5 pounds of boost through an unopened D16 engine, and well, I don't have to tell you what happened. If you've been following this build series, you know that the Civic has been turbocharged for the last 2 years, and now it needs another engine. And this is it. It's another stock D16 Y4 I got off Marketplace for $400, single overhead can, non-VTEC 1.6 litre 4-cylinder, built by Honda. Now, a lot of the information from this video references a 5-part series I did on turbocharging your D series, so make sure you go and check it out. Alright, on the outside it is clean enough. I spent about an hour on it, but I don't really have the time to go and scrub everything down. It needs to go back in the car because we're racing in 2 weeks. So I thought in this video it'd be a really good opportunity for me, while the engine's out, to show you guys some specific things. I get a lot of inquiries about this car, specifically the turbo setup and how you can just bolt it to a stock D16. So things we're going to talk about in this video would be like clutches, we're going to talk about head studs, when you need them, spark plugs, all those little things while we get this engine ready for my car. As I said before, 180,000 Ks, that's what the previous owner told me. So I think the best thing to do is to start off by just doing a quick teardown, have a look at what it looks like inside. Fingers crossed. All right, it's time to open up the $400 long block. I really hope this is gonna work. So pro tip, if you've got it on the engine stand, you're planning to rotate the engine on the stand, you better drain the oil. I've done this before without draining the oil. It makes a huge mess. Clean hands. It's okay, looks kind of thick. No sign of any metal. And we'll let that drain. All right, let's take off this valve cover. Came off way too easy. Oh, very dark. I don't know if you can see the valve cover. It's very oil stained. It's definitely not a good initial impression. I mean, it's not really a deal breaker. It could mean just the engine's been sitting around for some time. I was also told it has a brand new timing belt. So let's have a look. Oh yeah. Looks like they've used a Gates belt. It actually looks pretty new. Looks like they've also gone and changed the water pump as well. It's a Gates water pump. So it looks like the oil pump has been resealed before. I don't know if that's a good sign or not. And the sump gasket has been changed and it's still leaking. So nothing too concerning so far. I kind of doubt this engine has 180,000 Ks. It does look like it's quite high mileage, but even for a high mileage motor, you shouldn't really see this kind of residue, carbon buildup, oil gunk in the head. Good thing is it was only a $400 block. It's had the timing belt done already. It's got a brand new water pump. So I think what's best is we turn the engine around, we take the sump off and have a look at the bottom end. Oh dear. Everything looks pretty normal. You can see bits of Honda bond here. There's a bit of gunk in the pickup, so it's going to need a good flush. Sump gasket feels pretty new. So I think the previous owner had tried to take care of it. Not too bad, I can work with this. The first thing I want to talk about is head studs. And I know it's controversial, but I will give you my own experience as well as my recommendations on whether or not you need them. So my experience is based on a D16 Y4 turbocharged with a GT 2860 RS, 14 to 16 pound of boost, and it did spike a few times up to 18 psi we never saw any issues. Now, we put this engine back on the dyno recently. We put a lot of boost through it, and it did start to lift at around 20 and 23 psi of boost. So somewhere between that is going to be where the limit of the stock bolts are for that engine. So I'm going to go out on the limb and say that 15 to 16 psi is definitely safe for the stock head bolts. And of course, there's a lot of things to consider. Coming sealed out of the Honda factory, you'll know that the block and the head was sealed perfectly. And if that's on the original head gasket, you're probably going to be fine. Now, if you want cheap insurance, there is no harm in putting ARP head studs in your motor, even if you're not planning on boosting it to that kind of level, which is what I'm going to do. So this was gifted to me by Doug. Thank you, Doug. And we're going to go swap out each head bolt with a head stud one by one, so we don't have to take the head off. The head studs are in, and you can definitely do this with the head still on the block. Just make sure you do them one by one and follow the right sequence and torque settings. So there's, I think, 3 stages of torque specs you do to make sure that it's all even. Make sure you do that and just take your time with it. So what I want to do tonight as well is to get those covers back on. So I've got the timing belt covers, got a fresh valve cover to go on. I've also got the sump off my old turbo engine. And one of the worst things about this car is the amount of oil leaks it has. I know it's a high mileage and it's an old car, but without an engine sitting in there, there's still a bit of oil. So funny thing is, like when I turboed my B series, it actually made the oil leaks better, but not the case with the D series. So huge thanks to JDM Yard for sending me out this kit. Now this is going to be available on their website shortly. It's a complete D series seal kit, and it is a very comprehensive kit. You can see we've got our front rear main seals, cam seal, got the gaskets for the intake manifold. We've got the intake manifold gasket. Now, locally in Australia, it's really hard to get good gaskets, and they're kind of low quality. They're not really reusable. Quite happy that it comes in a metal gasket for the intake manifold, also a stainless multi-layer gasket for the turbo manifold, sump gasket. We've even got the PCV seal, which goes on the chamber. It's going to be a good one to replace. The valve cover gasket kit comes with the spark plug tube as well as the valve cover seals. You've even got the timing belt cover rubbers. And yeah, got the injector, the square injector O-rings as well. So really good kit. It should be up on the website shortly. We're just going to start replacing seals as the engine comes back together. Got a fresh valve cover I quickly smashed out over the weekend. I ran out of paint. It's meant to be a wrinkle finish, so it's kind of turned out like a mini wrinkle satin finish. Looks okay. I've also gone and replaced the 4 plug tubes. They were super crusty, and we've got a fresh valve cover gasket. And normally I put like a few dabs of silicone on the joints here, but it's due back on the dyno next week, a couple of days before Winton. So I want to pull the valve cover off and recheck the torque on the ARP head studs. Ooh, fresh. Nice. I don't think this engine knows what's coming. Another question I'm asked quite a lot is whether or not you need a coil and plug retrofit for your Turbo D series. The short answer is no, you don't. So for most standard engine turbo setups like mine, stock ignition system is fine. And this is the stock Dizzy which came off my setup. You can tell it's gross, but it is in decent working condition. And that's what you need. And I want to explain how this works. So this is a factory B16 distributor. This is actually off Adam's car. And the way it distributes spark, there's an igniter there, which will distribute spark through the rotor. I think it's called a rotor button. And then there are these contacts on the back of the rotor cap. And it distributes spark through these leads to each cylinder. And why it can be seen as a bit unreliable is because there are a few serviceable parts which you can't really get from Honda anymore. So you've got the igniter, of course, the ECM which sits inside there. You've got, you can replace the rotor cap. You've got a seal around this too. And you'd of course be replacing your plug leads. And the way a coil and plug retrofit works, and why it works well, is because you have an igniter coil on top of each spark plug. So this is a K series one off my B series turbo build. My drag car Tegan, it's on the way, stay tuned. But this sits directly on top of the spark plug, and each cylinder will have its own ignition coil. And you can wire this directly up to your ECU, and it'll be providing a stronger spark, which definitely is a good thing. Now, we've had my factory D16 Dizzy up at about 28 PSI of boost. Fernando from TuneLab, who does the tuning on my car and a couple of other Honda D series turbo builds, he's been still using the factory distributor system with no problems. So the key here is having a good working Honda OEM distributor, having good plug leads and some good spark plugs. And the plugs I'm using are these Honda B series plugs. This is the BKR7E. Hopefully that focuses for you guys. And I gap them down to 28 thou usually. So this is actually a 20 thou gap. We were just running a lot of boost through those plugs. We were getting a bit of ignition breakup at about 23 PSI. So yeah, I recommend getting these cheap plugs. They are like $4 each, and replacing them regularly. So while I'm cleaning up this Dizzy, just a side note from what I've experienced before on other cars, I have had engine position errors which are usually associated with a noisy or unreliable reluctor sensor trigger setup. So on the D and B series Hondas, the signal comes from a few magnets and a reluctor wheel in the distributor. And that signal gets sent to the ECU so it knows when to fire. From my time with the B and D series engines, these Dizzies are known to fail. They're not very reliable, and I always carry a spare in the trailer. So if you're needing reliability, I'd recommend upgrading to the honed trigger kit and a coil and plug setup while you're at it. It uses the Honda Hall effect sensors and eliminates the old factory distributor, and then you can go and add some ignition coils from the Honda D17. Earlier today I got a bit more done, and I swapped out a few more brackets off the old block onto the replacement engine. I've also gone and fitted the alternator and got a new oil filter. So that's actually a made in America K&M filter. Got that as a present about 10 years ago, and I just haven't really had a block to put it on. And I think this is the one, because if there's an engine which needs more oil filtration, it's going to be this engine. It's very, very dirty inside. And for the rest of tonight, I wanted to show you guys the modifications that we need to do to the engine so that we can fit up a turbo kit. So I like to face the front cover, so the intake of the turbo towards the transmission. So to do that, you're going to have to grind down part of the block here. Just be careful you don't grind down too much here, because there is some thread there for one of the transmission bolts. You also need to grind this back in line with one of the ribs here, and you should be okay. You just pretty much cut where it hits. And yeah, and I want to put the turbo kit on now, and we can show you where the lines run. We've got a brand new exhaust manifold gasket. Nice. So hopefully I won't be taking this off anytime soon. Fingers crossed. All right, all bolted up. It is such a simple kit to put together. And you can see the clearance there on the front cover on the block. It's pretty tight. That's kind of why I haven't run an intake on this for the last year and a bit. You can see that the turbo's eaten some things in there. Still spins pretty good. I do plan on welding on a pipe to this front cover, and then just having it extend out over here, and then I can run my own filter or whatever. Anyways, so let's start with the water feed. At the back of the block here, the water pump sits here, so your highest pressure of coolant is going to be around this area. So once you remove this block drain, so there's a block drain at the back here, over here, you can then go and weld on your own fitting. So I've welded on a -6 fitting there. My -6 line goes through this fire sleeve and into the back of the cartridge. In there, it's pretty dark in there. So the coolant will flow through the cartridge and then out the front here, the -6 line returning back to the hot side of the head. And this is a honed coolant spacer. I do have a sensor which goes to my dash, and I've also got this, the water return back to the head. Now the oil feed, if you recall, we removed the oil pressure switch, the one which sends a signal to the cluster, and then I've put in this T-piece, and on this side of the T-piece is a Bosch temp and pressure sensor combo, which will send data to the ECU, and this I have welded on an orb fitting, a -4. So I do sell this on my website. I've sold a few, so if you're interested, these are really good. And coming through the fire sleeve again, and most turbo manufacturers will recommend you run your oil feed to the top of the cartridge. So that's what I've done, and then the oil can drain back with gravity back to the sump. And I've got a bit of fire sleeve here too, because the downpipe does run this way, and you obviously don't want to just heat up oil, or you just want to manage heat as best as possible. So yeah, I hope that was helpful. It's definitely a lot easier to show you this out of the car, with the engine out of the car. And this engine is ready to go back in. So next set, we're going to push it over to the other side of the garage, and I want to show you the clutch and flywheel that we're using. First thing we're going to change is that crusty old rear main seal. So I've got a new rear main seal, and now we can go ahead and fit our clutch and flywheel. And without a doubt, the most common question I get is, what clutch and flywheel do I use on the Turbo D series? There's not many options available in Australia. It's still not a very common project. And the factory flywheel is 200 millimeters in diameter. And it turns out, and this was made known to me from Daniel in Melbourne, that you can actually run a 212 millimeter flywheel from the VTEC engines. So it's about a 6% increase, a little upgrade, but it does make a difference, and it does allow you to run a few different clutches. So I want to show you the flywheel, which I will be using, but just not on this setup because I really just don't have the time to go source other parts. So this is the factory D16Y4 200 millimeter flywheel, and it is very heavy. It's also quite thick. And this is the one we will eventually be upgrading to, just not in this engine. This is a 212 millimeter chromoly flywheel, and it's so light. When you pick this thing up, it just weighs like nothing. Super nice, and you can get these locally from Repco. As far as I know, there are no other manufacturers that we can get easily, especially in Australia anyway. But this lightweight flywheel in James's car really woke it up. So just honestly felt like it was revving a lot freer, which is what they're meant to do. So with the 212 millimeter upgrade, I would recommend the Exity HD clutch from Jetim Yard. It's not the standard clutch that you buy from Repco, and I've had that clutch before in my B series. It's an excellent clutch. That is what I would recommend. That's what I will do once I go ahead and put that engine together. And you guys will see that one day. So make sure you like and subscribe, and you'll follow for updates. So yeah, we're just going to put the stock flywheel back on with the clutch that I've been using. Now this is an extreme clutch. I actually don't know exactly what this is. There are pretty much just two options we have for the 200mm aftermarket ones anyway. It's the heavy duty clutch. I think it's just a standard button clutch, and then there's this 4-puck clutch that you can get. So for 200mm, your options are quite limited, but I haven't actually found the limit of the clutch. We never had it slip before. It's in good nick. It's only about 1.5 years old, so we're going to put it back in the car. Flywheel goes on, and I usually like to put a bit of dab of blue Loctite on my flywheel bolts. And the torque spec is rattle gun with chrome socket. I have a B series and a K series clutch tool, but I don't have a D series, so I just spent the last 10 minutes making this. Pretty sure this is how I did it last time as well. So this is actually a 3/8 10mm deep socket, and this end will go inside the bearing, or should go inside the bearing. It's a bit of cellophane tape, wiring tape actually. Oh, that's it. Honestly, probably better than those plastic ones. So we'll get our clutch on. There we go. Found my 10mm socket. Just hanging out with my 280 horsepower long block. And that's what I wanted to show in the video today. Pretty much just answer most of the common questions I get, but also show you the process to prepare a D series for boost. And in this case, this is a $400 engine, which we're planning to put about 16 pound of boost through it. And I'm actually racing in a week's time. The car's still not ready. Got to put it on the dyno, got to drive to another state. So yeah, got a lot of work to do, and I'm going to cut the video there. If you have any questions at all, drop them in the comments, and if you found any of that stuff helpful, please let me know. Support the channel, guys, and there'll be more content like this. I hope you enjoy the video. I'll see you guys at Winton.